Thank you for the introduction, Michiel. It's a pleasure being here. I should actually speak French because I have a French mom. However, I'm not raised in two languages, so I'm sorry. I heard like 20% of the room is from France, and I think the other 80% is from all other countries around Europe, and a few from the US, so I'll stick with English. However, Paris, therefore, has a special place in my heart because of my mom. And I think the title of my presentation also very well fits my mom. It's the little big world of gaming and esports. And what I mean with that is that it's little in a way that not many people know what it is. Maybe they've never heard about it. And if they did, what is it? What's happening in esports? But at the same time, it's really, really big. And I'm going to show you exactly how big it actually is. And my mom was in the little part. I was the gaming child when I was young, and my mom was like, what are you doing? You know, you're sitting behind your PC. Well, not the whole day. I was studying as well, of course. But I was playing professional eventually. She didn't like it at all. She was ashamed. She thought it was a taboo. We had a really big struggle in our house for 8 years straight. And we sat at the pedagogue in 2009. Now, the pedagogue at that time did not know anything about gaming. They saw a child that did sports, sleep, study, had a social life. So the pedagogue couldn't help. And eventually, I got my help from media, because in 2014 I was interviewed by the NOS, a big channel in the Netherlands. And then my mom started to click. She was like, whoa, what's happening? My child is being interviewed by national television for playing games, for his career. And that's how it all took off. And this year we spoke together on a similar stage in front of 80 parents about what I do, and the problems we had, and the solutions we shared as well. That's a big topic. That's why I'm writing the book. And I'm founder of a new platform which is not online yet. It's called Parents of Play. And I'm helping parents. But besides that, I love to speak at conferences and all over the world. And I'm very happy to be here. And yesterday, at the beginning of the day, we saw my generation not being able to read the analog clock, which I actually have around my wrist over here. I'm able to read it, lucky me. Many people had a good laugh, including me. However, if you think about it, in the video they're asking a historical question to a future generation. So my question to you would be, are you asking historical questions to the future generation in your company? Or are you making them innovate with what they know and share their experience? Like Henry Ford, when he founded Ford, he was like, if I ask people about faster transportation, they would say faster horses, not a car. So it's very interesting to think about different questions and different ways of integrating that young generation in your company, and not take them in the whole sludge of 50 years of working in your company with all the steps that are part of it, but make them have implement their experience and their youth in your company. However, we're going to talk about esports, which is one of the things that many of the younger generation keep themselves busy with. And I'd like to ask a question. Please raise your hand if you like to connect with the younger generation. Definitely most of the room. And please raise your hand again if you not only want to connect with the younger generation, but also like to connect in a way that's very engaging with them. And that is the world of esports. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is a voice recorder, not a clicker. Generation, right? Shoot.
Have you guys seen esports and the E-League?
I don't know if that's sports, but it's great mind savvy.
But I don't know if athlete is the right word that I would go for.
You don't break a sweat? I don't consider it a sport.
No, you do.
Watching people play video games isn't like watching people play football. It's like watching people play fantasy football. It is one more step removed from human activity. You understand?
It's video games. It shouldn't be on a sports network. It's video games.
But can it truly be a spectator sport?
It already is. 71 million watched it last year. They reckon it's going to, by 2017, it'll be 145 million people watching it.
They're actually giving college scholarships for video gaming.
You're kidding.
And it's even gone to the point that now the government has acknowledged professional video gamers as athletes.
Same way you watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Running for Barrett though right now, trying to establish vision control and force Ambition! Ambition steals the Elder Dragon! He gets away! He survives! This is a 4-drink Elder Dragon! He lives! Ambition saves the game once again!
So as a little introduction of what is happening right now. Well, actually, not even right now. This was 3 years ago. And it was big already. And I love this video because it shows the stigmatization where we came from, the past, being bullied as a professional gamer, to where we are now. We went through all the struggles, we pushed ourselves through, and now we play in stadiums that fill 40,000 people in the world, if not bigger, hopefully in the future. And this is a graph showing the revenue of the gaming industry compared with two very big entertainment industries. Now, you see in 2003 that for the first time the gaming industry was bigger than the movie and the film industry, or the movie and the music industry. And in 2019, where we are now, the gaming industry is 3.5 times bigger than the Hollywood movie industry, and 5.5 times bigger than the music industry in revenue. 150 billion. Now the esports part of the gaming industry only has a revenue of like 1 billion, only 1 billion, still a lot of money. But just like with soccer, for example, the top athletes are the most interesting for business because they are in the picture. They are being broadcasted, they are being interviewed, they have sponsors. We're going to talk with someone, Baptiste, very soon after this presentation about sponsorships and teams, and actually Sogeti is sponsoring an esports team as well. Now there's 450 million people playing games or watching esports tournaments in the world. 2.4 billion people play games on their mobile phone, the new best computers in the pocket. And children don't really care too much anymore about their real-life presentation. They care more about buying stuff for their online characters. They almost care more about their online representation than their offline representation. And you might have heard of Fortnite. It's the big boom square maybe, of the gaming industry. All the little kids play Fortnite or Roblox. And a couple of weeks ago, if not, I think 2 months ago in New York, for the people of the US, you definitely know, there was a big tournament, the World Championships. $30 million prize money for Fortnite. And there was a player, there were different competitions, and one player in the 1 versus 1 tournament, his name is Booga, or well, that's his in-game name. And you see what I did there. The in-game name of athletes is basically your brand. We don't really call other professionals by their real-life name. My gaming name was Koen, so it is easy, but most of the time when players have different names, we call them by name. So Booga in Fortnite won 3 million. He is 16 years old. Of course, it's very unique because Fortnite has 250 million registered accounts. So in fact, he beat 250 million players to win the $3 million. So no, your child might not become a professional gamer, even though he or she might want to become a professional gamer. And this is Dota. The international happened this year as well. Another $30+ million prize money pool. But the most interesting about this one is the way it's funded. The one of Fortnite was funded by the company, the developer, Epic Games. 30 million. There you go. But not this way. This game had a base prize pool, I should take this one, of 1.6 million, meaning that the company, the developer, Valve, invested 1.6 million for the World Cup finals. And then crowdfunding comes into place. The contributed prize pool is almost $33 million. It is funded by the community playing the game to support the professional athletes. In total, it was just over 34 million. But gaming is not esports. Like, gaming is playing a game on any device, really. Mobile phones, for example, Candy Crush, Wordfeud, any other. While esports is just like with soccer, it's like the professionals. They're in the picture. They're playing the tournaments for the prize money in front of audiences. They have millions of fans, some of them earning millions of dollars as well. And just like sports, you know, you have soccer, you have NBA or rugby. The word sports is overlooking different individual words. Esports is a global name. However, each game that's being played professionally is actually its own sport. So we have NBA 2K, we have FIFA, we have Formula 1 esports. And these simulation games are pretty big in the world. FIFA has a lot of players, but competitively they only get like 100K viewers for the World Cup finals of FIFA. And then I mean the game, obviously. The biggest games in the world are actually the fantasy games. They're not realistic games. They're not simulation games. League of Legends, 100 million people playing monthly. In 2016, it's even more now. Counter-Strike, 20 million people playing monthly. And there you have Fortnite, 80 million people playing monthly. And this is how it looks like when people gather in a stadium. This is in Bird's Nest in Korea. Once upon a time in 2008, you had the Olympics in this stadium. And 10 years later, it's filled with people enjoying 10 players on a stage playing games on the absolute highest level. And the experience is not much different than any other sport you're watching from a stadium. You just enjoy top athletes performing in their sport while you are sitting on your chair in the stage. And there's different ways of competing. Now, obviously, playing in a stadium like that, in front of 40,000 people, I mean, we're talking about definitely like the high-end professionals that perform in those stages. But it all starts online. It all starts at your house. And I'm actually wondering, maybe your children are playing tournaments themselves. Maybe you don't know. Often they have to register at websites. They are often triggered by the game itself to play tournaments because it's a very addictive industry, playing games, lots of psychology involved. And one of these psychology tricks is having tournaments to engage with the audience, to be competitive, because from nature, humans are pretty competitive. The second one is LAN parties. I love LAN parties. I've been to a lot of LAN parties. And basically what it is a local area network party. Not much of a party, though. As you can see, there's many people sitting behind their screens, but it's lovely. It's coming together with the community, enjoying what you do and what you love. Just having a weekend with friends, playing games, playing tournaments. And yes, we also go outside. There's very often other things that you can do as well. Like we can see here at the back, here. Such a big screen over there. You can see there's some stuff happening. There's more than just playing games at these events. Very often also things that have to do with moving the body, for example. But LAN parties are great, and I would advise everyone to enjoy a LAN party themselves, maybe with your children. Then we have national events. Very often the finals of a competition, a local competition, and we have the international finals. And the picture that I show you has a great story as well, because it's Katowice, Poland. And Katowice by itself is not a very famous city. It's not like Paris or Amsterdam or New York. But in the gaming industry, it's one of the most famous cities in the world. And why? Because ESL, the one that's organizing this event, ESL is Electronic Sports League, they decided many years ago that they're going to host a tournament in Katowice because it's cheap and they had a good stadium. And from that moment onwards, I mean, the rest is history. As mentioned, it's one of the biggest cities in our industry. They got a new airport because their economy is building, it's growing, and that country, or at least that city, is being very successful nowadays. Maybe you've had a meeting in Katowice. Ooh, one back. Struggling here. just like soccer or basketball. 11,000 people sitting in a stadium in Katowice watching the finals. Again, 10 players on a stadium playing what they love doing and the community loves watching. And it's not that 11,000 players visit a weekend. No, it's 15 or 20,000 people because some players have it, or some viewers only have a ticket for Saturday or Friday. Others only have for Sunday. So in a weekend, there's a lot of people going to watch these events. And in France, you actually have a very, very big event as well. It's the Paris Games Week. And we're going to talk about that very soon. Now, team size is different in esports depending on the game. For example, one-on-one, Nicolas Loguet, he is a French Formula 1 esports driver. He's driving for Red Bull in the simulator. It's awesome. Great competition, by the way. Then we have FIFA. You can play 2 versus 2, but also 1v1. 3 versus 3. Rocket League. These are the champions of last season. Then you have Call of Duty. They just launched their new game last Friday. Maybe some children are playing this game. Of course, there's females as well. 5 versus 5. Counter-Strike. The game I just spoke about, 20 million people play it each month. Many ladies playing these games as well. And if we look at ladies versus men, in esports it's 60% is male, 40% is female. But if we talk about gaming in general, it's 50-50. Also because of those games like Candy Crush. And finally, the biggest teams we have in esports are 6 versus 6. And that's Overwatch. And Overwatch is really big in the US. You have the Overwatch League in the US. And when they started a couple of years ago, a buy-in spot for the Overwatch League was $20 million US. And then you only had a spot. And that's it. It's a big sum of money. However, it's a big success. And if you now want to join the Overwatch League, you pay $50 million US. And then you only have a spot. The animation is out of this slide. Anyway, I used to be a professional player as well, and I spoke about Paris, the Paris Games Week, and I want to show you a little clip of the World Championships that I played in Paris, because I played Trackmania, and you might have heard of the game. Maybe the French people know that game because it's really popular in France. And the World Cup finals were always held during the Paris Games Week in front of a great audience, around 3,000 people, so that's the biggest audience actually I ever had. Excuse me with the little clicker issues I'm having over here. You could say that the new generation is not good with clickers.
On veut les encourager de la Coupe du Monde des Jeux vidéo 2013. Dernier run. On va savoir qui terminera sur le podium et qui aura la place de 4e, la pire des places en championnat international. C'est dur, c'est dur. Et puis Koen, il avait les moyens d'aller chercher la médaille d'argent. Là, il se retrouve en grande difficulté. Et Bergy se réveille au moment capital pour aller chercher cette 3e place. Attention parce que Bergy est encore devant. Koen n'a pas envie de le lâcher, mais Koen a l'air d'être moins à l'aise sur cette carte depuis le début. Voilà, Bergy qui prend un petit inter de Koen là sur Bergy. Bergy qui craque pas et qui est toujours devant. Attention, le petit saut entre les deux murs. Très bien géré par les deux joueurs là. Ils sont vraiment en situation coude à coude. C'est très chaud là. Koen qui passe devant. Attention, le drift bordure, externe poteau. Très bien joué par Bergy qui prend un très bon inter. Très belle trajectoire de Bergy. Oh, ça touche vraiment rien. Koen à l'intérieur, c'est beau ce qu'il fait. C'est très beau. Il a pris beaucoup de vitesse et il déborde complètement. Bergy a touché et Koen qui est en train de partir là tout seul devant. Il va sûrement récupérer sa 3e place sur le podium. Attention, il est loin, Bergy, il est tellement loin. Koen pour la 3e place, peut-être médaille de bronze. Attention, on arrive bientôt au bout. Les deux poteaux à éviter et l'intérieur, interpoteau qui arrive. Koen, 3e place de la Coupe du Monde.
And that's how I became 3rd of the world at the World Championships in 2013. That's 6 years ago. I feel old already. Man, time is catching up with me as well. I'm not a professional player anymore, by the way. I used to be. But yeah, I think this is my highlight of my career. A very intense round in Trackmania against someone from Norway called Bergy. And if we look at professional players, then there is a couple of coaches involved. And the biggest teams have a lot of different coaches. For example, fitness coaches, nutritionists, psychologists, therapists to make sure you have the good position behind your desks, for example, and also media training, being able to talk to your community, because many of those very big professional players, especially nowadays, have hundreds, thousands, if not millions of followers online, and if they make one mistake, saying something wrong in media, it's a worldwide phenomenon. So it's very good to teach them about how to engage with media and what to say, and especially what not to say. And sometimes that's a problem for some younger kids as well. And maybe in the future we have doctors as well, just like doctors running on the soccer field when Neymar had another Schwalbe, you know, then maybe in the future we have esports or gaming doctors running on the stage as well. Now, the domain of esports, how does the industry look like? Now, on the right, or for you, the left top, we see teams and players. They're actually the most important piece of the puzzle, because without players, we don't have esports, right? Then we have in the middle the professional competitions, and on the right, the event organizers. And you have third-party organizers, like DreamHack, like ESL that I mentioned in Katowice, and you have organizers that are the game developers, like Epic Games with Fortnite. And the game developers are the most powerful in the industry. We don't have federations that lead our industry like FIFA has, even though it's pretty corrupt. But the gaming industry has the developers. They decide what's up. If they want to cancel the whole game, then they can. It's pretty scary to think about. Then you have, of course, players engaging with their community, doing live streams on, for example, twitch.tv. Definitely a website that I'd love you to check out. It's called twitch.tv. And finally, in the middle, the center of attention, content. And gaming and esports is all about sharing content. We came out of our little hole, and now we're a big worldwide phenomenon because of content, because of internet, because of social media. Because of sharing content. We don't have any borders. We can easily play, you can easily play with someone from America, someone from Germany, someone from China. We don't know borders. We share our content online, most of the time it's English. And these are a couple of the companies that I worked with, because this industry is very attractive for new companies, for existing companies to work in, because you reach such a young generation. And it's not just about making children sit still on their chair. Like, there's a lot of things to be scared about company-wise, like, oh, we don't want to support children playing games, but you can actually make use of games to get them out of the house to events, for example, like Katowice, like LAN parties. It's very attractive. And maybe you've seen this logo. Please raise your hand if you know what this logo means. I see 1, 2. Yes, Google Stadia. It is. Now, if we look at the future of where it might be going, then Google Stadia is very interesting because it's basically like playing games through a cloud. So instead of buying a gaming PC and spending a lot of money, you can have a pretty bad PC and still play the most high-end games, because Google has a server in some country, somewhere in the world, and they will basically make you play the game through a cloud, through a connection. They are streaming the game to your PC. Therefore, your PC doesn't need high-end stuff. It can have low-end stuff and still play the game, which is very interesting for business as well. For example, at conferences or expositions where you don't want to buy FIFA for 50, 60 euros. You just have a subscription on Google Stadia, and you can, with pretty bad laptops or pretty bad PCs, still attract youth to your stand and talk with them and engage with them, of course. But also think about South Africa, or Africa in general. Not many gamers in these countries, obviously because of affordability issues and the internet connection problems. But with Google Stadia, for example, and I'm not being paid by Google to say this stuff, but because of Google Stadia, they might have access to this global phenomenon. Because there's, I swear, a lot of talents in these countries that we don't see, because they don't have the opportunity to make themselves be seen in the world. And then you have virtual reality as well. Yeah, ouch, right? Oh my God. Look, virtual reality is a great innovation. As long as you know how to use it, and well, sometimes you make mistakes, but that's all normal. And then I think this one is the best. Yeah, The Void, a big new project, already existing, but imagine being engaged in an online world with your virtual reality glasses, having a full body suit, and actually whatever you do in that virtual world is something you feel in real life. Why playing sports the usual way? Why not innovating sports in general? Why does the goal at soccer has to be on the ground? Why not 2 meters up in the air? You can think of it in the virtual reality world. So where might you be now? Now you might be in a position where you're like, okay, I want to do something with gaming and esports, but I don't know how, or I don't know where to search, or you're doing something already. However, it's not being very successful, for example. And where you want to be is on the other side. You want to be over here at the nice green moth with the flamingo, for example, where you know what you're doing. You know how to engage with the gaming and esports industry, because it's not an easy industry. If you do something wrong, you will notice on Twitter, on Facebook, or whatever social media platform, because the gaming industry is not shy. People sitting behind their PC are not shy in general. They say everything. So how do you do it? Well, there's a couple of steps. The first one is looking inside. Now, it's a very big phenomenon. It's going really fast. However, don't lose sight of your own company's values and norms and your vision. For example, I have numerous companies that I know, for example, Aldi in the UK, that went on the hype train, but forget about what they're actually standing for, and it was a huge fail. Now, the second one is investigation. Very soon, upcoming days, there will be the Paris Games Week in Paris. So especially for my parents' colleagues over here, there is no excuse to not check out the Paris Games Week. Make an impact, making a plan, storytelling especially, that has to fit with inspire. How will you inspire this generation? How will you fit their purpose? Because purpose, as we know now by these 2 days, is very important. So how will you inspire them? And finally, invite them, talk with the community. Just like, I guess, in any industry, really, you have to know what's going on, talk with the experts in your country or international, depending on the business you want to do. And there's a whole system underneath this, which is called the esports business system. Now, I'll run through a little example, because I'm a bit over time already, and I realize that very well. I work together with Vodafone on Parents with Gaming Children, and at the beginning, this is what the parent said. He just sits there by himself and his headphones on. I believe he spends too much time on it, while he could be playing outside. I think it's way too time-consuming. He should be going outdoors. Now, you get the picture, right? This was not scripted at all. We just picked 2 families that had children playing Fortnite a lot. One of them getting up earlier in the morning to play Fortnite before school as well. And then there was me, and I basically guided the parents with their children. And what happened afterwards is I learned so much. Obviously, they dived in a new world, they engaged in a new world. My biggest learning is that kids who are good at Fortnite are geniuses. Don't know if that's actually true for every kid. Eye-hand coordination, quick thinking, definitely on point. Be aware of your location, on point as well. Now, when dinner is ready, and this one is interesting, and you're in the top 10, you have my respect. I mean, there's also other things you can do to, get your kid in time for dinner time, I can tell. Gaming is more social than I thought. I hope you realize that also by listening to this presentation. And no matter what you want to achieve or where you decide to go, you can always achieve more together. Meaning the older generation with the newer generation, with Gen X or the millennials, you can achieve more together also business-wise. And in France, finally, you have a couple of great stuff going on. You have, I put the address for you, especially for the Frenchies. Team Vitality, one of the world's biggest esport teams, is located here at 102 Boulevard de Sébastopol. And it's a great team. They're actually world champions in Rocket League. That's a car soccer game. You saw the dates, right? It's tomorrow. It's starting tomorrow. There's no excuse if you're in France tomorrow to not go to the Paris Games Week and just have your mind blown about what is happening here. Anyway, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.